your blue side, J-Team on the red. Radiance and Huan helping out Alpha in the draft. Raytas added Cold Ice as well for J-Team. I'm interested, do we just see some target bans immediately, or are they just trying to, shake things up? Mainly because Alpha do have blue side, they have all these free bans, and they're going to start off with a Syndra.
Yeah, every single time you're going to face against Alpha Esports, the 3 Trinity bans that you're going to get, LeBlanc, Rek'Sai, and the Lee Sin. And we've seen that countless of times. Machi did that exact same 3 bans against Alpha the other day. So I'm wondering what J-Team decides to do into this draft, because last time they were a little bit loose. They were the first one and the only one that did Nocturne top last time for Rest, and that was against Alpha Esports.
And you can even see Alpha just trying to lock down pretty much Nesti's champion pool, already getting rid of the Syndra. The Pantheon he's actually brought out now 2 times in the PCS. We won't be seeing a third as that gets banned away. And for J-Team, they opt to actually ban out the Rek'Sai. Reminder, you are on red side, so you're pretty much forced to have to ban out Aphelios. And that might mean that the Lee Sin gets through for Catjug.
And we've seen how Alpha really prioritizes that. He is willing to first pick that countless as long as it's open, as that is his primary carry air quote champion for Alpha Esports. And right now J-Team will decide to ban Lee Sin. We're not going to be seeing that today.
That does mean though Aphelios is left open, and most of the time if it's left open, blue side will always take it. So Atlan gonna have himself on the wacky carry in the bot lane as it gets locked in.
Curious to check, this is going to be Atlan's first time on the Aphelios. We've seen our first loss on the Aphelios throughout the whole PCS split. It has been 100% win rate until, it was played by Nova, and it wasn't very successful. And we'll see whether or not it's still going to be very effective in the hands of Atlan.
Now, Rest, though, showing his Renekton very early on in the draft. It could be, of course, flex to mid lane, but more or less it's always been a Rest pick. And for Rest, it hasn't been all that exciting to watch, unfortunately. There's only been a couple times where he's been able to actually get into the backline and try and dive these carries like the Aphelios. You do see J-Team, though. They're looking for ways to get at this 80 carries. They're also going to lock in the Sejuani.
This lock is definitely more of those, late game secured at least for your jungle. You do have that team fight utility. And in the meantime, a lot of early game top picks, I suppose, for Alpha and J-Team. You did mention that, that Renekton can still be flexed, but I feel like Nesti and Assassin will really play a huge part as well into this game.
Let's see, Set gets locked in, likely going to Rock. On top of that, too, we could see it go to support with Kino. We have seen it before, as there's still some options available here. We've seen this Tristana hover actually quite a bit from Alpha. I doubt it's actually going to get locked in. There you go. Maybe get the Nautilus for Kino. He likes taking the roams to mid lane and trying to impact the lane for Assassin to get him ahead of Nesti might be the option.
Alpha Esports, take note, they do love pulling a fast one in terms of drafts against these teams, and especially it's one of those things and where there is only a few games left, so probably the mentality coming into the last remaining games are more of a do or die situation. And we've seen that from Resurgence before, and it has been working, especially that your options of success has been dwindled a little bit with, the LeBlanc, Rek'Sai, and the Lee Sin out of the table.
So let's see here, though. Leona's going to get locked in for J-Team and really hammering home the idea of if this Aphelios steps out of line, we are going to dive him immediately. So a lot of options to get in on top of this carry, but not a whole lot of damage. And now that opens up a couple of these bans towards, say, the mid lane, as well as some more 80 carries that could be taken away here from Lilby that he's been using so far, as the Elise is also going to get banned here on the side of J-Team away from Catjug.
Yeah, and I think J-Team's plan is to just really dwindle the champion pool to just shut down early game aggressions like the level 3 and probably the level 6. Catjug did pick the Olaf yesterday. It was indeed successful, except for the lone wolf play style that we saw from Catjug after getting an immense lead. And now that's going to be a Zoe ban away from Assassin.
Alright, so no Zoe. Assassin did play it yesterday, and unfortunately that was just one of his, I guess, bad games we've seen on the champion. I think he ended up finishing, it was 0-7. Wasn't the prettiest performance from Assassin, so maybe Alpha aren't going to be too worried of seeing that being banned away, but the Varus was already banned here from Alpha. We'll see whether or not they opt to try and get rid of another 80 carry pickup, and that is going to be the case as they get rid of the Callista.
At this point, it's more of a misfortune Ezreal. Not Ezreal. But now they're still thinking about it if they're gonna lock this Ornn in.
Wow.
Is that gonna be a mid Renekton then?
I could also be a mid Ornn. I think Nesty has
true.
played it once, so it's not out of the question. Alpha, on the other hand, now what do you want to try and pick up for Catchug? This has been one of the first times where we haven't seen a lot of priority for him when it comes to the draft. Still has options like, of course, the Jarvan. But you know what ends up happening when you show the Ornn after the support? You get the Vayne, as that's going to get locked in for Alpha.
I am excited to see Vayne once again on either Assassin's, rather an Assassin's pool. And that's going to be a set support, I suppose, once they lock this Mordekaiser in. And
that's kind of the issue when you see Ornn this late into the draft after the support has been picked. You can't really flex it toward the side lane anymore, as now you're going to have to play it in. It's also going to be the Echo lock-in, so I think that means possibly Rock
Jungle
will be, yeah, that could actually be an Echo jungle now for Catchug.
Yeah. It is. I mean, it does fit his playstyle, but now I'm kind of curious.
All right, Esty.
I want to wait. I want to see.
They might go with it. If you want to try and kill that Vayne, all right, they would rather go with the Talia, so that's a little bit, that makes a little bit more sense here. But now that means, wait, who's going to be your 80k? Who's your bot laner now? Is it Talia bot?
Echo jungle. Oh yeah, that's true.
Are you going Talia bot? You can't put, like, maybe you put an Ornn Leona bot? Like, maybe that's your plan?
It makes sense. Because you just stack, you get the Zenith Blade, get the stun, and then you get that knockoff.
Okay.
But we'll see.
That does mean, though. I think it makes more sense for the Talia to go bot.
Yeah, it does.
There we go. So
yeah, that's a crazy combo.
Yeah, you have the Seismic Shove as well as the Zenith Blade to try and lock down this Aphelios. So, for J-Team, let's see whether or not they're actually able to get that combo. Most of the time, though, when you see a Leona versus Nautilus, it's always been, I believe, whoever goes in last is actually going to be the victor usually. Because usually early levels, there's just not enough burst to try and take down the Aphelios. But you do have the Talia, so there's going to be your damage. But a bit of an interesting draft. And on top of that, we finally get to see the Vayne into the Ornn in mid lane. We talked about Nesty, you know, not having much of an impact. He's going to have a very tough lane with Assassin.
For sure. As, you know, Assassin very used to these sort of matchups and has to be careful though still for the potential gank coming from Hana and the potential Weavers will visit from Lil V as well. So Vayne quite gonna be vulnerable, especially at the early stages.
We'll have to see. We're gonna go ahead and load on into the Rift for our first game of day 3. J-Team with a victory find themselves a little bit out of that cluster of 6-win teams at the bottom of the standings, fighting for the last 2 playoff positions. Alpha looking to bounce back after 2 losses yesterday. We'll see how these 2 teams perform as we get ourselves loaded in.
Looks like that is going to be a swap instead. So Assassin is getting a taste of his own medicine here. It's gonna be very, very scary. Meanwhile, just a greeting from Rock on towards Nesty.
We have seen, though, when the Renekton goes into the range matchup, at least it is a shorter lane, so Rest shouldn't be... I don't know if he's going to be exploited as much. It is an Echo, though, and it is Catjun running Dark Harvest Echo, by the way. He's going to be looking to get those stacks.
He really loves his Dark Harvest.
He does. He ran it on the Gragas earlier on in the split. This time around, going with the Echo. And Echo loves diving, obviously. Parallel Convergence with your Chrono Break. It's usually a free reset and usually a free kill once you hit that level 6. So I'm a little bit scared here for Rest, and I want to see not a whole lot of deep vision actually coming out from Alpha, as they just would rather just try and track where the Sejuani is going to be heading.
And then that is going to be a swap instead for Assassin, just trying to find the Ornn instead. As you're right, there is not a lot of vision to work with, just a lot of defensive vision coming from JT. And I do like this pick for the bottom lane, for J-Team in particular. I think it's mainly because of how low mobility an Aphelios can be, and you pair that up. Usually you want to pair it up with either an Enchanter or perhaps a Karma to compensate for the lack of mobility, but you do have that Nautilus for hard engage and perhaps even for Assassin later on if Kino decides to roam. But that will be the go signal for J-Team to dive Atlan. So right now, that's going to be the decision that Alpha Esports has to make.
You can already see this is not a fun time here for Nesty, as especially with the Halo Blades Vayne. Quick early trades once she has a point into her W as well. It's not a great time to be an Ornn, so my biggest question is, will Hana actually try and come up toward this top lane to try and salvage it a little bit? Because likely you're going to have to just expect that. All right, Assassin's going to get ahead of Nesty. Do we try and at least shut him down? Do we try and temper a little bit of his aggression? Or are we just going to let this happen and then try and make plays elsewhere on the map?
That is the biggest question for Hana, as at the moment he does want to gank bot lane to shut down Atlan early. And looking back at the previous game that, when Alpha Esports and J-Team faced off each other, and that was indeed the plan. They focused more on Lil V, but at the same time, because of this Vayne at the top side of the map, that is going to be a huge problem. So it will be an eeny, meeny, mighty, mo for Hana on which should they prioritize first.
Yeah, see there, at least Nesty able to clear out a little bit of the waves. We'll keep track of how that matchup goes. Mid lane, a little bit of a different change of pace. We rarely get to see the full lane swap here. As Catjung is going to come over, uses parallel convergence. Hana is nearby. So maybe do they try and go for the play over here on Catjung? Is coming over toward the side. It's actually going to be Kino who secures the scuttle, and now an engage going to come out, and we got ourselves a 4v4 in the river. Kino gets shoved on back by the Taliyah. Atlan now trying to defend, and they're not able to get the shutdown yet onto the Nautilus. Flash on forward. Atlan able to cleanse away. Rock though with a huge face breaker, and that's first blood going in favor of Alpha as J-Team. They thought they had the upper hand, and look at all these stacks from Catjung. He could just keep on proccing the passive. Over the wall he goes, and it's 3 kills to Alpha.
Beautifully done by Alpha Esports, not only getting first blood, but they also get 2 additional kills out of that. And that is the downside of having, that mage bot lane. After you consume all your spells, there's nothing left to consume or use. And let's take a look at this again, as Res getting exhausted. Kino is quite low at this point, but I'm not sure. I don't think he died at that time. And a lot of stacks, just as you mentioned, piling up for Catjung, and massive face breaker from Rock there. And that was just Alpha, all according to plan.
Yeah, unfortunately, there's not a whole lot you can do there, and Catjung able to get over the wall to finish off the kill on Hana. It's a double kill on that Echo. We talked about his Dark Harvest. Well, he's already getting the stacks in his favor. And that is not the plan you were looking for here if you're J-Team, as you now already find yourself down 2,000 gold at 5 minutes.
That is quite the opposite happening when they first faced each other, and I think it just showed in the draft as well. J-Team very comfy with this mage bot lane, and right now, instead of them getting the catch onto Atlan, it was the complete opposite. And Alpha Esports, especially Catjung, getting 2 early kills, that's going to boost him even further.
And if you're a casual viewer of the former LMS and maybe you've only seen J-Team from Worlds, you got to question, what has happened to this team? Well, again, you had 2 major roster changes coming off during the offseason. First was your mid lane, Fofo. J-Team last year, it was practically the Fofo show. And then they also lost Koala over to Machi. And then you had Refrain, who went over to Fun Plus Phoenix over in the LPL after, taking them down actually during the group stage for a game. So it seems like a lot of changes to J-Team. They've just not been able to adjust during the spring split so far. And there's a real possibility now that this team, this #1 seed that went to Worlds last year, isn't even going to be able to make the playoffs for spring.
Exactly, and because of those roster changes, and we see that, Lil V at the bottom side of the map has to carry the weight a lot here for this particular team, and this could be a potential setup for a dive, as I feel like that's not going to be the case as we see CatJug going back to his own base.
I like this, though, from J-Team. They're trying to figure out something to do here. This bot lane has to find a little bit of a cheese play to find their way back into this one, as that is going to be Hana starting up the Dragon. He is spotted out, though, by a ward. Echo will be starting to path on over. No level 6 just yet for either squad, but Rest does have his Dominus available. Rock will have the Showstopper as well. No teleport off the Vayne, though, so there won't be a flanking Vayne coming over as the Dragon goes down to 1,300. Kino's going to go in for the engage. The turret's laid on down. They're not even going to focus onto the Dragon. In comes the Showstopper, and they're able to go ahead, find the Haymaker. They're so low on the health bars. Nesty joins in on the fight, though, with the call of the Forge God. Rock maybe going a little too far forward. Nesty trying to do what he can, and unfortunately, Atlan is able to kite back as CatJug is able to secure the kill. In the end, it's going to be a 3-for-2 in favor of Alpha.
CatJug is 2 levels ahead of Hana when they started that fight. And that was just massive coming from Alpha Esports. And at that point, this is definitely the plan in mind. Fine, Assassin is not in the mid lane to join these fights. He's totally fine because he's a Vayne. Let's take a look at this again. Turret placed in the middle of the fight, coming from Atlan. And everyone was practically low, therefore Rock was just bothering the backline, and CatJug just cleaning up house.
You mentioned CatJug now 2 levels over Hana. That's a bit disgusting, and we've seen this trend before. CatJug was up 4 levels yesterday in the game that they ended up giving away that 12,000 gold lead. So CatJug, even though the team has been finding losses, he's been able to actually do so much from the jungle. And for J-Team, it seems they still have this identity crisis of what do they wish to do with their jungle. They've used Hana. Hana hasn't been able to perform as well as they'd like to. Then they sub in Lava. And then Lava somehow does worse than usually than Hana, and they keep going back and forth. It seems they're going to try and stick with Hana more, but so far, he just continually gets out-jungled.
Yeah, and it seems to be the trend so far, which means J-Team is not able to prepare the necessary adjustments to get these picks, to take off these picks rather, especially considering the fact that, you know, we got the Renekton there for Rest, and so far, because of the pressure coming from Alpha Esports, because of the swap, it's not necessarily what that they intended to execute, especially we've seen a lot of Renektons sitting comfortably at the top side of the map and getting early platings, and that's the time where the Renekton is going to be scary for the carries of Alpha Esports, mainly this Aphelios, mainly this Vayne, but it's not working at all based from what we've seen so far.
And we haven't really mentioned the Vayne here, as Assassin's just been farming in the top lane. Hana, does he get caught out again? Rock was maybe looking for a roam. They are going to be able to clear out the ward, but Assassin in this top lane, he started Cull, by the way. He's only 10 CS away from fully stacking that, so he's going to have a large injection of gold on his very first back, and if Nesty was already having a difficult time, the first item, Vayne, is going to help out. Look at this, though. Atlan maybe a bit too far forward, ends up flashing away to safety. The Weaver's Wall is there to cut him off, and you got Kino that's just trying to occupy the rest of the side of J-Team. Atlan gets shoved on back, and there's unfortunately no response just yet from Alpha. Rock is going to walk back into the lane, but that's a nice little shutdown there as they are able to take down the Aphelios.
Nicely done by J-Team as they do, again, lock this roster, lock this composition so that they can keep feeding off from Atlan in the bottom side of the map, considering that that's a cleanse, that's a flash already being used.
Rock is trying to interrupt there. In comes Kino, and now the Showstopper is going to be used, but unfortunately, there's just nothing you can do. Kino now underneath the tower, going to get stunned up, doesn't have his ultimate available just yet. Lil V needs to finish him off. He will, as he's able to claim that stack of the Dark Harvest. Meanwhile, though, Rift Herald's going to be popped in mid lane, so they do get a couple turret plates down in bot, but Alpha instantly respawn, and CatJug is going to get all that gold put into his pocket.
And it is definitely one of those situations for Alpha. It's, again, CatJug getting a lot of these early game kills, and Assassin will shine later on. And Flash Cleanse used as he's trapped with Lil V because of the Weaver's Wall, but that is 4 people invested at bot side, and therefore there's truly no escape.
Yeah, and then you see Rock and Kino, they're at least going to try and hold the tower for just a little longer, as they just go for the full dive. Rock is, though, again, a set, so as long as you don't burst them down entirely, you can always get that massive shield off the Haymaker, and they do trade back 1 kill.
Indeed, and that is actually 3 kills in favor of J-Team. So they cashed in a lot out of that instead of just the AD carry because of, Alpha Esports still wanting to defend the tower.
They're not slowing down just yet, though. In comes the Glacial Prison. Haymaker's going to be used, though, during the animation. Woody and Lil V wanted to rejoin onto the fight. Atlan a little bit too far forward. Catchung, though, parallel convergence into the Time Winder, able to find the kill, and he's on a rampage on this Echo. Kino's going to get taken down. Now J-Team on the other side of the map. They are able to circle back toward the mid lane to find their escape.
Whew, that was close there for Atlan, and I suppose they'll take that, as that's, I believe, 1 kill over to Lil V. 1 kill, rather, in favor of Alpha Esports, and it's not stopping. This is what they intend to do, and Medjai is actually being acquired by CatJug here. Very confident. We've seen him insanely confident in most of the fights. Nicely done.
Before,
as a CatJug.
There's everyone coming up here. He's looking for stacks for that Soul Stealer. Parallel convergence. Not going to be used just yet. Faceberg is going to bring him on back. Unfortunately, ST is going to get taken down. Now this poor Orin is going to be the target, it seems, for Alpha. As now, with that, going to pick up a couple more turret plates, get some more gold for themselves, and it's almost a 5,000 gold lead before 13 minutes.
That is massive for Alpha Esports. And look at the pings from J-Team. They obviously just really wanted to make something happen at the bottom side of the map. Take advantage that Atlan does not have his summoner spells up just yet. And this all started because of their attack on towards Rest in the mid lane. And I believe they were quite successful in eliminating Lil V in this exchange, as everybody is in the mid lane. It's a party.
Now, unfortunately there, if you get caught out by the parallel convergence, not a whole lot you can do, as CatJung is going to get more stacks onto his Magi. And I talked about questionable builds. He was the one that built the IE Phantom Dancer in yesterday's match on his Olaf. Maybe getting too aggressive once again. That ended up, biting Alpha in the end of their game as they took the loss. But with that now, it's 10-6. Assassin's now finally taken down this tower. He's found himself a 40 CS advantage as well as a kill on top of an assist. So this Vayne is starting to get scary as he's going to look to build, I believe, toward his now Rageblade after completing the Bork.
Yeah, Bork already completed. So at this point, especially the tower is down already at top side, which would mean Assassin will be definitely comfy entering into these future fights. And the thing is, you saw Vayne. Hold on, let's check this out again. Nesty.
Nesty can't be going for this. Does Assassin get caught out? No, he guesses wrong. Nest's, that's just not a fight you need to go for.
Interesting choice of to tackle that problem at the top side. Most likely trying to interrupt the back for an objective around the map, perhaps. But the thing is, I just want to praise Alpha Esports for dealing with the laning phase really, really well. Despite having that teleport for Nesty, despite having Rest in the mid lane, Alpha Esports still gets the upper hand despite the absence of Assassin in the early skirmishes. And that's an amazing job for Alpha Esports.
And we saw there CatJung still hunting on this Echo. Atlan will have his first item finished off here shortly. Assassin, though, he goes down to the bot lane. He's just looking to get more and more gold. ST can't even step close to this at this point. He's 2 levels behind. And they also got the rest of Alpha. Maybe the rest of J-Team, though. It's the call. Forge God is going to be used. They're trying to force a play here. ST, without that ultimate being available, could be crucial. But, unfortunately, there is no dragon to be taken. Assassin now has his flash, not available. Cleanse is there, going to use it immediately. Gets slowed still. CatJung looking for the flank over, and Hana's going to be the main target.
Whoa.
A decent amount of damage as he's able to get the passive stacks. But meanwhile, mid lane, now they dive in onto Rest, and there's no slowing down on the side of Alpha. And ST wants to help out now in mid. He doesn't have his ultimate. Leona now over here as well. Footy uses his solar flare, and now Lil V has to back off. Showstopper going to bring in his back line, and this fight goes across the rift at this point, but still no one falls.
And Assassin is still intact, farming at the bottom side of the map. That's how long, or that's how crazy that fight was. It all began at the bottom side where they wanted to initiate and catch off Assassin. And after that, they transitioned over at mid, and Assassin is just happily farming back again.
And in the end, like we said, No one falls. I don't know how, but a lot of summoners burned. So Assassin doesn't have his cleanse now for the next couple minutes. Might be a target for J-Team. But now, hopefully a little bit of a breather in the action as we're going to have 2 minutes on our Cloud Drake. Assassin's just going to continue whacking away at this tower, and that should be the second tower of the game here for Alpha. Assassin
will definitely be scary later on, considering the fact that you already have Cat Jug wrecking a lot of chaos for J-Team at the moment. And now it's a completely topsy-turvy land. It's was J-Team had full control before, but now it's Alpha Esports dictating.
Well, let's see. Oh, Kino was able to actually buffer his hook, so he got to safety by landing it onto the tower. So Glacial Prison not going to be able to lock him down, as Katjung already looking to start up the Rift Herald here, as it looks like no one from J-Team is looking to respond, as Alpha is keeping them busy in mid.
Exactly, and this is the part where you see Hana trying to get these desperate calls, and I wouldn't really call it desperate. It was more of we have to do something, as things are already getting out of control, especially with Alpha Esports right now. Cat Jug in particular is still 2 levels ahead of Hana.
Yeah, 2 levels ahead of Hana. This duo of him and Assassin have always been wreaking havoc when it comes to Alpha's games. Often usually the keys to victory, but they've also been sometimes their crutch when defeat. And let's see, Katjung going to go through the brush, ends up seeing me face-to-face with the Sejuani. A double call to Forge God. Katjung ends up using the Chrono Break to get himself back to safety. Now Assassin joins in onto the fight, uses the final hour, and the sacks are raining on through. Showstopper going to be laid on down, and Woody's going to get taken out. Haymaker's going to connect. They take out the Ornn, and Alpha still hunting as Katjung able to intercept Lil V on the Weaver's wall, forces out the flash. And Alpha find themselves again 2 kills.
Nicely done by Alpha. I was a little bit worried there for Cat Jug since he was in the middle of it all. But thanks to his Chrono Break, actually using his flash as well to escape the fight, that not only garners them 2 kills after that, as well as the Dragon too. And it was J-Team that started this.
Yeah, J-Team, it looks good. You end up getting the knock-up, but they're not able to burst down Cat Jug, and he's able to get off his ultimate. And then the re-ensuing fight occurs.
Yeah, it was the re-engage coming from Alpha Esports after waiting for their cooldowns. And this one is actually pretty smooth coming from Cat Jug, as Lil V forced to use a flash to escape. And that's going to be very handy later on for Alpha.
And with that, 8,000 gold lead before 20 minutes. Dare I say this looks very similar to Alpha's Game 2 yesterday. But you got to remember, they've shown themselves to have some difficulty closing out games, and especially when you're this far ahead. You have multiple items against the lanes of J-Team. You got your second item, third item technically, for Assassin, as he now has his boots, Rageblade, and Bork. You got Infinity Edge completed now for the Aphelios. You still have the Mage Eyes here for Cat Jug as well. Right now, Alpha are scary to deal with. J-Team are still waiting on their items.
Yeah, I think the big difference from yesterday is that you only had Cat Jug, who had all of the gold sort of funneled towards that Olaf. This time around, you have Assassin, who is on this vein, and it's quite easier, way easier to execute in comparison to a Zoe pickup. So at this point, if Atlan dies, if ever in a team fight, you still have your consistent damage dealer on Assassin with this vein pick.
There's always that fallback, and this is more in line with what we said with Alpha. Usually always have a plan B when their early game doesn't go in their favor, but when everything's going in their favor, they're smiling pretty happily. So the question is for J-Team, how do they look to try and stop the bleeding here, as the game's going to continue going south at this point? You got to make a Hail Mary play. You got to try and find a shutdown onto this Echo, onto this Vayne. There's so many options for Alpha when it comes to their damage dealing, and if you try and use everything on a Nautilus, Kino, he's still alive. He's not going to get taken down, and that was 2 ultimates burned by J-Team.
And Alpha Esports will gladly have that. Nicely done trade. Kino not even using any of his summoner spells, and that will equate to Baron, I suppose.
That's going to be the play here. They can rush it down very quickly. They have the Aphelios and they have the Vayne. Rock is going to end up running interference here immediately against Nestea. Rest is going to get popped up there by the depth charge. He's got nowhere to run. Lil V ends up using the Weaver's Wall, but he ends up trapping the team within the choke point. Luckily for them, Alpha do not look to ensue on the chase. And like that, it's a 9,000 gold lead now for Alpha, as it looks like they'll disengage away from the Baron.
They'll be happy to take that one as they've managed to eliminate Rest, and this was the plan in mind as Rock was just sneakily waiting over that brush in the river. Kino with a nice hook. He saw how Rest just exploded with all the damage in the world coming from Alpha, and right now, what is your target priority? Because everybody else just really hurts from Alpha.
Yeah, because now what? You have Runans completed here for Atlan. He now has his second item. We're still waiting on the first Orin upgrade still from Nestea, as he's still only level 12. It's still a little while before J-Team really find their mark, and all this time, Alpha are going to continue to scale.
Absolutely, and for J-Team, there's not a lot of options for them in the late game, especially they lock this mage bot lane for themselves, and with Alpha Esports getting ahead early and not, J-Team not able to shut down the carries, the early phases of the game, it's definitely a hard problem for J-Team to come back into this game.
And you see, Alpha are just kind of suffocating this side of the map away from J-Team. They just continue advancing this ward line, denying vision while they can. Sure, you get, again, the ultimate on Kino, but he's a giant Nautilus. He doesn't care about your CC, and that forces J-Team now to not have the ultimate if Alpha decide to actually go for the Baron.
Exactly. They've been sort of choking resources away from J-Team, and as you can see, Hana is once again, actually not 2 levels, actually 3 levels behind against Catjug.
Catjug's circling around. He can jump over the side here. That's going to be engaged. Akito with a massive hook, able to catch out Woody. There goes your CC as Leona's going to get taken on down. They do trade back, though. Assassin was shut down immediately by Lil V as he ended up walking too close to the action. J-Team, another hook onto Nestea, but Kino now left alone. Flash engage coming back from Hana. And Lil V gets himself another kill, but Atlan is still huge. He gets knocked up into the wall, though. There's a shutdown. J-Team are finding their mark, finally. And Catjug now has to somehow carry back the fight, gets a double kill, looking for the passive procs, and this man looks to solo carry Alpha into the playoffs with his performances. Gets shut down, gets stunned up immediately, ends up using the chrono break, forces the flash out of Rest, doesn't have a flash of his own to try and chase, but Catjug able to salvage this fight for Alpha.
Look at the respect. Look how low the HP bars are for J-Team. And it all started with this massive flank and Kino's hook towards Woody. That was just massive, and that started the fight. And with J-Team, at least they managed to burst down Assassin. And but with that said, we did mention that there's still a lot of carries to work on for Alpha Esports. So you did burst Assassin. You still have Atlan as well. But the thing, he flashed to avoid the seismic shove, but everybody else was just diving in, and I think that is the worrying part. But Catjug 1v3, and that is insane.
Meanwhile, though, Catjug does get shut down, and that's pretty big. That actually cuts down his Solar Stealer stacks. He still has 15, and he just straights up by a Lichbane. Something we've seen from Catjug before, though, is oftentimes he doesn't know when he needs to go back to base, and with no jungler on the map for 30 seconds, J-Team find a window to maybe go for this Cloud Drake. Alpha over the wall. It would be a 4v4. Nestea does have teleport, though, and that's enough to dissuade Alpha from going in over the wall, trying to steal away the Drake.
2 dragons apiece now for both of these teams. I guess this is what we mentioned. It's a little bit worrying for Alpha Esports, and where they've acquired a humongous lead in the previous games in the PCS, and one little mistake, the lone wolf strategy, if you will, on like one of the players would roam around solo, and that would be the opportunity for J-Team to take advantage of, as we've seen that time and time again.
Yeah, because we saw during the last fight, it was kind of the perfect formula for J-Team. They were actually able to get Assassin immediately during the fight, and if they're able to land that seismic shove, Lil V does a decent chunk of damage. He's already got himself a Ludens and a Morello. he's got some magic penetration. He does hurt, so Assassin needs to be a bit more careful during these fights because he is the secondary carry when it comes to the rest of the team. There's the engage immediately onto Wook. There we go, over toward the side. Showstopper going to come on down. Call the Forge God finds a double knockup, but that is again a tanky front line. But Catchug gets taken down immediately. He's not the one that's supposed to be tanking at this point. Assassin ends up going into the final hour, wants to go over toward the side, and Alpha still want to find the chase here. Assassin now looking to hunt down Hana, and J-Team starting to collapse over toward the top side of the map.
Looks like that will be a concede for both of these squads, as that will be a support exchange for a jungler, and all started here once again. I think Catjug and dashed in, waited for his cooldown first, and timed it with a parallel convergence. That was a massive knockup and a haymaker as well coming from Alpha Esports, but again, there's tons of damage coming from Lil V already at this point of the game, and as well as rest. So this is where these key picks will come online for J-Team.
Yeah, unfortunately though, you saw for Catjug, he's now lost, or died twice. He's actually lost a majority of his Soul Stealer stacks. He got cut down to 15 on the last death. Now he's down to 7. So unfortunately, efficiency not there until you're on 10, and that cuts down again on a bit of this lead that Catjug was able to make for himself during this early game. And it kind of goes in line with what we saw yesterday during the massive throw that we saw from Alpha, where they were up over 12,000 gold. It's starting to seep through once again, where they're just not able to finish off games. They're looking for a collapse here, though, onto ST. Catjung over the wall. Time Winder's going to slow him on down. Also has the passive stacks. Does have the call of the Forge God, but unfortunately, the Showstopper is able to interrupt him. Kino over toward the side, lines him up for the Haymaker, and that's going to be a kill going on over to Rock. Lil V, though, and the rest of Hana want to go in for a re-engage. There's the depth charge, though. Catjung jumping on in with the Chrono Break. Does a decent amount of damage, but they still have these tanky health bars. Haymaker once again. Catjung able to find 2 kills, but here comes Rest over toward the side. Gets the shutdown on the Echo immediately as Rest is now on a killing spree. Rock is going to go into stasis, but look at mid lane. You have Atlan, you have Assassin taking the inhibitor.
And that, I feel like that is a pretty good deal that Alpha Esports is willing to take. So that will be 3 kills on their side plus an inhibitor. So that is the good end of the stick. And meanwhile, Alpha losing 2 members. I say that's a pretty sweet deal. Meanwhile, they catch off Nesty quite advanced in towards this bottom lane. There's not a lot of wards to work with for J-Team. And with that, they had to suffer the consequences because they invested so much here to just try and shut down, maybe get a consolation kill against Alpha Esports.
And you saw there, Lil V ended up getting caught by the original Chrono Break, and that does a decent amount of damage if you're right beside the clone, and Catjung is able to find himself a double kill, does get shut down once again. Rest is starting to get pretty big on this Renekton, not gonna lie. But again, this is a fight where you don't have a Vayne, you don't have an Aphelios adding damage for Alpha, and that is a scary idea that J-Team now have to realize that we're getting away with these fights, but what happens when we also have to deal with the Aphelios Vayne?
Exactly, and those are the situations that J-Team would love to take advantage of, especially once Rest, I suppose, comes early into the fight. Maybe that's a situation. Baron is getting started, though.
We've seen this before. Showstopper's going to bring Hana all the way back over toward the side. Kino's also there. He ends up using what he can. It's not going to be a steal, though. And like that, it's going to be the secure over to Alpha as they also take down the Sejuani. Lil V ends up using his ultimate. They want to try and lock down Rock. Rock does have Flash, though, and he'll get himself to safety. And with that, also, Alpha are able to escape on toward the mid lane, and no one will go down.
Yeah, 30 seconds more or less for Hana here. And again, you mentioned it's quite scary considering the fact that the carries were not present. And right now you see how way ahead Alpha Esports is.
And there wasn't a direct back actually coming out from J-Team. That's also going to be the teleport being used immediately here by Rock. That gets them down the first Nexus tower. J-Team, they got 4 members. Rest jumps on in. He's not able to find the kill, though. Assassin able to get over towards safety. It's a big knockup, though, coming out from the Ornn, but Nesty is going to get put down immediately as Assassin able to land the silver bolts. And Catjung now finds himself a kill, does get shut down immediately, but Assassin has now come online. And unfortunately for J-Team, it's too late in this game as the Nexus shall fall. Another kill as Atlan is able to secure it. And with that, J-Team now in serious danger of going into a three-way tie for the final playoff slot as Alpha take home the victory.
After a 3-lose streak for Alpha Esports, they have achieved victory, and it's such a landslide fashion too. It's the complete opposite when J-Team defeated Alpha when they first met. So this is going to send them 1-1 with this matchup.
I was happy to see, though, for Alpha, they realized, okay, we can just end the game. They didn't mess around this time, and we're actually able to close it out because there was, hints of what we saw yesterday where they were able to get a massive gold lead in the early game, but we're just not able to close it out.
And yeah, and it's one of those scary thoughts considering yesterday they only had CatJug, who had a lot of kills, a lot of gold in his pocket. But this time around, I think the gold was sort of spread evenly with Assassin, Atlin, and as well as CatJug most especially. And because of that, J-Team couldn't really just kill CatJug and be happy with the team fights.
Yeah, and for J-Team now, you fall to a 6-11 scoreline. You only have one more game to play during the regular season here of spring. If they do get the win, they get themselves 7 wins, but there is still this now very big possibility that J-Team aren't able to actually qualify to the playoffs. And let's go ahead and take another look here toward one of the early fights of the game.
Yep, this was the Mountain Drake take as we saw that smash down coming from Rock. That was massive. Lil V didn't have anywhere to go because of Rock's zoning. Last cone will send them nearby. And meanwhile, CatJug and Atlin still focusing on Nesty right here. Atlin survives, and it was just basically fight after fight after fight, and J-Team didn't really win any of those in the early game and just skyrocketed the lead of CatJug in particular.
Yeah, with that, it's going to be 26-15 your kills. Victory over to Alpha as they get them a sub-35 game, so we're able to close it out. For J-Team, I'll give it to Lil V on the Talia. Was able to actually find a couple of good seismic shoves and was getting a decent amount of damage, but without the consistent damage and without having to wait out this game, even if they waited it out, you're still going up against a Vayne and a Felios late game. I would say, you can have as many Ornn items as you want, but I still think the late game would have still went to Alpha.
True, you're just going to get shredded down especially by Assassin or maybe by Atlin as well. So at that point, what is your choice? It was definitely more of a plan A strategy, more on the early to mid game for J-Team, and that's the reason why they drafted this composition. It's just that Alpha really shut down Hana. He didn't really manage to relieve pressure for the rest of the lanes, and that's the reason why Alpha has won this game.
And our MVP, it's actually going to go on over to Kino. On the Nautilus, was able to get himself a couple of good hooks. We actually saw the flash hook engage come out multiple times and try and keep his carry safe. I think production was like, you know what, CatJug? You kind of entered a couple times there. You kind of jumped into 3 members and tried to, make a hero play when you didn't need to. So still a well-deserved MVP going on over to Kino.
For sure, Kino did a lot of key hooks that really CatJug caught J-Team off guard, and looking forward to more of his Nautilus performances for sure.
And now for Alpha, they're able to find their footing once again after, losing both games yesterday. They now sit at an 8-8 score line, so they still have 2 games left to play for themselves. Meanwhile, J-Team only 1, and they'll actually be playing that next week on Saturday. And it's a little weird now here for J-Team, where you have to deal with this possibility that if HKA aren't able to win any more of their games, if you end up losing your other match, and Liab, if they're able to just get 1 game victory, all 3 of them actually have a 1-to-1 scoreline against one another, and then we have to look at some kind of weird playoff just to decide our final 2 slots into playoffs. That could have been easily avoided here if you ended up, I don't think, trying to get fancy in the draft.
Yeah, that's true. And I think they did get really fancy with the draft once again. And I'm looking forward for more Alpha games later on.
Well, we'll have to see. We're going to go ahead and take a short break. When we come back, it's going to be Talon taking on Berjaya Dragon. Stick around.